Kia ora, comrade. Welcome to the show and thank you for being available to the Fourth Estate. Your democracy is grateful.
Another second, Lee.
Kia ora, marama.
Oh, look at it. Oh, we're being brought in.
Marama, the Greens have held a very successful...
No sound.
Oh, you can't hear us?
Just in case.
Oh, okay. Hold on. We've got our tech people working on it now. Let me know when you can hear us. La la la. Can you hear us yet? There we go. Okay. Marama, you had a very successful conference over the weekend. What is the vibe for members?
Far out, in a really good place. The party,
Yep.
members energised by the Greens putting actual solutions and some deep work that we've done into how we can make sure that we are governing for everyone and protecting our planet for future generations at the same time. And so really inspired is what I've got incredible feedback from over the weekend. Proud particularly of, in a lot of ways, setting the agenda. And some of the examples that we used for that was when the government did their budget speeches, they spent half of it talking about who? About us, the Green Party. And so, yeah, really good vibe from the AGM over the weekend. Thanks, Bomber.
I'd like to talk about the polls, not the Greens so much, as the rise of New Zealand First. There are factions inside Labour who are nervous of the Māori Party and would prefer an arrangement with New Zealand First. That could only ever happen if the Greens were to agree to it. Would you rule out a Labour, New Zealand First Green government that sidelined the Māori Party?
We would prefer, and it's not, and look, I'm not even trying to avoid the question. I'm really clear that politics isn't just about political parties and political leaders playing with numbers and playing games with those numbers. We're actually saying to the population, it's really up to you. If you want a green heart government that really is going to prioritise everyone having what they need, that is going to prioritise economic transformation, that works with Papatūānuku instead of against her, if you want that as voters, you have that choice. And it means that, you know, we would prefer, whatever the government looks like, that it's the most progressive it can be. And we're straight up about that. We can't hypothesize what things are going to look like on election day. We're simply saying, if you want one that's as progressive as it can be, the Greens need to be the stronger part of that.
Here's what pisses me off about the climate debate and jobs. One of the many, many things, Marama, that pisses me off about the climate debate and jobs. Mātua Shane Jones runs up and down New Zealand promising jobs for oil and gas and mining and screams woke a lot. And that message resonates when the economy is being vandalised and people are fearful for their jobs. But jobs in mining and oil and gas amount to 12,000 jobs, while renewable energy jobs and green economy jobs amount to over 30,000. There are solutions to our climate and our economy that don't require polluters that exacerbate the problem of climate change. How does Mātua Shane Jones get away with the distance between his rhetoric of jobs and the truth of jobs?
The Green Party launched our jobs industry plan in Tokoroa with the community of the Kinleith Mill, where we showed how we could, in fact, create 40,000 jobs that take us into the future that an Aotearoa needs, cross-laminated timbers being created in the region that also provide the housing infrastructure that we are going to need more of. Green jobs for nature jobs that have been a roaring success all around the country and the communities, rural and city regions, and making sure that we are training people up in the renewable energy jobs that are going to take our mokopuna into the future. It's a dying industry, the one that Mātua Shane is advocating for. We want to be setting communities up for enduring employment, and not fossil employment.
Comrade, many whānau are doing it so tough right now. homelessness exploding, 600,000 Kiwis need food banks each month, unemployment is soaring, insolvencies for small business rising, mortgage sales are going up, public health is under constant assault, and New Zealand First want to spend time passing a law removing Aotearoa from the name New Zealand. How disconnected is this government from the realities of their self-inflicted economic vandalism?
Shamefully disconnected. People want to see their cost of living reduced. People want to see their waters and soils protected for the health that we require them to be. People want to know that we are able to leave our mokopuna with a stable, thriving planet. Those are the solutions that the Greens have been putting out there and will keep getting on the ground to put out there. Such petty and ongoing slights towards Te Ao Māori, towards Māori people, are both petty and shamefully a waste of time.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back to the marae, Minister Goldsmith has bewilderingly announced new foreshore and seabed legislation to curtail Māori interests. This government keeps claiming that it isn't anti-Māori and anti-treaty, yet almost every second piece of legislation is about bashing Māori interests. Is this government capable of legislation that isn't starting some culture war blowback that only makes Sean Plunkett and Don Brash happy?
What I want to say to people is that I really understand why people might be turned off this constant attack and target sort of politics of destroying things rather than creating enduring solutions. I know that that's frustrating for people, and my plea is that it doesn't have to be this way. You can choose. As the people, you can choose differently. You can choose instead for us to engage in robust conversations about what is going to work for 100 years ahead, rather than busting down things for the sake of seeming like it's a quick soundbite solution. I know that our people are smarter than that also, and they really want to see us engage in positive, creative solutions that take our country forward. The Toitū Te Tiriti Hikoi showed us that Māori alongside non-Māori understand the value and the opportunity that Te Tiriti provides for us all, that relationships in communities, across communities, working together, whether it's protecting our rivers, planting in our soils, whether it's helping to feed and provide for communities from marae and community groups. There are so many examples of where our people are working together. Those are the examples that offer us hope and vision, as opposed to seeing Te Tiriti, for example, or Te Ao Māori as something to fear. A lot of people have now seen that that is not to be feared, but instead embraced.
Finally, Marama, I don't even know how to articulate the horror we are witnessing in Gaza anymore. I don't believe any human being of conscience can witness what we're seeing there and not turn away in shock and disgust. These are supposedly our allies with reverence of human rights, free speech, independent judiciaries, and the rule of law, and they are committing war crimes while we watch. Why on earth is it taking New Zealand so long to recognise Palestine?
I have to say that we can't rule out that we are trying to appease the US. I mean, it's at least a logical question to ask. It's a valid question to ask. Surely we can make up our own minds on how to respond to an inhumane, completely unjustified loss of life and well-being. And, I think that the pressure from communities organising on the ground around the world is finally starting to land. The ongoing horror is finally starting to offer the whole world a wake-up call. What is New Zealand waiting for? We don't need to wait for anything. The children of Gaza deserve for all of us to have a spine.
And I just thought it was outrageous that Chloe was kicked out for the entire week for simply demanding some basic leadership from the National Party. Have they been able to challenge that ruling? Why is she out for the entire week?
I suspect that will be drawn back, Bomber. There isn't any precedent for that. It actually goes against the actual proceedings.
Yes.
We say the laws, the rules, the precedent set. But look, even if we can and should be appalled at that call, but we really need to bring it back to what Chloe was talking about.
Yes.
Was asking politicians to have a spine for the children and families of Gaza. That's what this really is about. And we are unapologetic and will not apologize for calling on all humans and particularly politicians in power to have a spine, because that is the least that the children of Gaza deserve.
Was it, and just finally on this, your thoughts on the killing of 5 Al Jazeera journalists was just, and I know what the defense that they've tried to put forward was that they was some sort of front for Hamas. I simply don't believe that is even close to being true. If this was being done by any other country, if they were killing journalists for revealing things, wouldn't we be calling that out?
We absolutely would be, and I do want to acknowledge what journalists around the world must be feeling right now. We know this isn't the first 5 journalists to be killed this either. We know that while there might have been, suspicions aimed and accusations aimed at one of them, there were none aimed at the other 4 journalists. Right. But this is 5 journalists in a long, long, long line of journalists, and that really is an attack on democracy itself. Understanding also that no other journalists, especially from, say, the Western world, have been allowed to gain access and entry to report on one of the biggest issues, global issues, facing us today. So where else are we supposed to get journalistic investigation from? And those journalists are being targeted and being killed.
Thank you so much, comrade. It's always a privilege to have you on the show. We'll see you again very shortly.
Kia ora, Bomber.
Kia ora.